Bridger here, July 2nd, 2020. I guess I kind of lied to everybody yesterday or the day before. I was going to run down to Salt Lake City at the TA down there, but I ended up stopping here because I had to get fuel, and I got plenty of time anyways. But it's kind of windy out here, so I apologize for that. I just wanted to kind of show the lot. There's actually some antelope running behind me back there, if you can see them. But I don't see that a lot. But I wanted to show you guys the lot here, and it's going to play into the second half. And I had to redo this. I had my external microphone on, and I'd done this once, but the quality of sound was just terrible. So I hope it's a little bit better with my internal microphone. But I actually had to move my truck. So this is what it looks like. I drive a night schedule, and that's what I'm going to talk about in the second part of this video. Is driving at night, and this is what it looks like when I park. So there's like 100 spots here. I was actually parked over by that blue Peterbilt, and he's a reefer, and I was like the only guy parked back here, and he backs in right next to me, so I was kind of PO'd about that, because I'm trying to, I'm going to go to sleep here in a little bit. I was asleep earlier, and I got some guy that wants to back in with the reefer on continuous when there's literally, you can park anywhere, so it's just whatever. So I ended up moving, and I think I when this gets laced back in, so I'm back over here. I backed over here by myself, but yeah. I got a little update as far as what we're doing. I got another load booked out of Colorado down to Arizona, and so I'm gonna run out of here tonight down to Salt Lake and stay at the customers till morning. Get an 8-hour sleeper break in down there. But it's kind of windy out here, so I just wanted to show you all where it was at and what the lot looked like for the last part of this video. And so we'll go back in the truck now, and we'll continue the subject from there, since it's, like I said, probably pretty crappy sound quality out here with the wind. But we'll go from there. So I talked to y'all yesterday, or by the time you see this video, probably the day before yesterday. I was up in Level, Wyoming. I got a load down in Salt Lake City. I was going to try to pick that up early, possibly today, Thursday here, July 2nd. And I talked to the agent yesterday. She actually had me, I asked her to find if she could find a load out of Kent, Washington, Seattle area. And she actually called me yesterday, and I was like, hey, just heads up, do you guys have anything coming out of there? And I asked them when I booked the load. And, sometimes they can find you other loads and stuff like that. But she called me up yesterday and said she had a load, but I had already booked that other drop and hook load over to Level in Colorado, which kind of a status update on that. I ended up getting the load about 2 hours away, 2 hours north, up in Wyoming, going down to Goodyear, Arizona. It's almost paying $260 almost on the mileage. One drop, one pick. Picking up there the same day, picking up on the 8th, and dropping down in Goodyear on the 10th, and that puts me in pretty good range of Los Angeles area, about 350 miles from Los Angeles. There's a pretty good freight coming out of there right now. What I see on the board, I've seen a couple loads on there like 260, 275. Going to Ohio and Michigan. So I mean, you're looking at 2,200. 2,300 miles on that rate. That's a good day. That's a happy day for me if I can grab one of those up. So I'm pretty excited about that. I know my schedule's been kind of a little spread out. Here kind of starting out this trip, but it's kind of tightening back up. And like I said, that's why I like doing the long haul stuff and staying out a couple weeks. Because usually the first week it doesn't hit as hard. Then when you kind of get into your groove and things start tightening up, and that's when you start like kind of hitting your stride and making that money. Like I said, my first week out. My first week or my last week, kind of depending on how it goes, isn't the best weeks. But it's like after that first week is when you start hitting those numbers you like to see. So that's kind of what we got into right now. Like I said, I talked to an agent. He's got some loads out of Torrance, California. One was going to Ohio, one was going to Michigan. And I called him, and they were already covered. But he thinks that the drivers that took them probably won't make it or will cancel or whatever. So he got my information. And hopefully he'll call me back on one of those two loads that are paying that good rate. And there's some other ones out there, but we got time. I mean, we're not looking to book something probably the 10th, 11th. I mean, I'll even lay over the weekend for a good long haul that's paying decent. So I'm feeling pretty good about that at that point. So rambling on enough about that. I get a lot of questions. I got caught up on the comments today, so sorry about the delay on that. So I think I got to everybody. and I know some people are asking like specifics about going to Snyder. I was at Snyder, but it was back in 2017. I was there as a company driver and an owner operator. That's where I started this whole adventure thing at. So I've got some insight on that, but my information may be a little bit dated, going back to 2017. But if you can get on the About page, you can send me an email. It might take me a day or two to get back to you with everything I got going on out here and all that. But I'll get back to you, and I can send you my number, and we can get together and go over any specifics. It's kind of easier to get on the phone and talk about things than it is sending emails and text. I'm not a big texting person, so I like to talk on the phone, especially if you're a night driver. I got my buddy Jim down in South Carolina. We talk for 6 hours, all night long. So it's nice having somebody to talk to at night. It gets pretty boring out here when you start having sometimes have conversations with yourself and you start answering yourself, and that gets kind of scary. So watch out with that. But the topic I want to talk about today, for informational purposes, other than this vlog stuff, was night driving. I get a lot of questions on that, and I pretty well drive exclusively at night. So I had some on my little whiteboard here. I kind of laid out some pros and cons, and I'll go over those and kind of how I run my schedules when I'm on the road running a night schedule. But I'll go over the pros and cons first, and then we'll kind of go from there as far as scheduling and all that. But so I'll grab this down and keep this here for my reference. But kind of from my cons, you've obviously, number one is going to be falling asleep. So if you're not used to it, it takes you a while to get adjusted to driving at night, and being able to go from a day schedule, like if you're at home on home time, like that switch over is kind of screwy. And then fortunately in my situation, I drove for YRC Freight. I was on the extra board over there, and you're on call, and this is the way that works. I mean, you work every day, and you work usually 6-7 days in a row, depending on how the schedule works. But you might work days one day, work nights one day, days, nights, like a swing shift type thing, or not even worse than a swing shift, because you'll do polar opposites sometimes. But I was over there for a little under a year, and that kind of, the first 4 or 5 months really sucked, and I got used to that. I mean, I was like a zombie, for a while. Then after that, you kind of get used to it, and you kind of get in a routine where you can kind of put yourself to sleep. It makes it a lot easier once you get used to it. So if you're kind of looking at doing a night schedule and you're first switching over, it's going to be a little bit tough. I mean, I don't get tired anymore when I run. It doesn't really bother me. I can drive anytime. I can easily run on 4 hours of sleep. I'm pretty well dialed in, and I like what I'm doing, so it doesn't bother me. And as if you see my coffee video, I got a big 32. I'll make a whole pot of coffee and I'll drink that at night, and that keeps you going and keeps you alert and moving on. The second con is, and I experienced this last night driving through the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. I came down all the way from Lovell, came down 14 to US 20, I believe. Then we picked up, I think it was 287 for a little while. Then kind of dropped back down right got back down on 80 at came down 372 State Route 372, but and got down on 80 at Green River and came over here to Fort Bridger, if I didn't say where I was at before. But I actually saw 2 drunk drivers last night. That's not typical. I don't usually see a lot of those. I had one guy that was driving down in an old Ford pickup truck with no headlights on and was all over the road, and I was turning my lights on and off, and he's like over in the shoulder, and I'm like, dude, I'm trying to tell you something, and he obviously wasn't getting the message. Then I saw somebody else that was kind of the same situation, but I rarely see that. I have drunk fatigue motorists is what I put on here. The fatigue people concern me a little bit more. Or you got these people that are the road warriors out here. They're going to drive from New York to California all in one stretch without taking a break. They're going to pop in a rest area for an hour, take a quick power nap. And those are the people that they act really passive. They're like they're so tired when you've been driving for 20 hours, 24 hours, that they're almost delusional. And I think at nighttime that I see, you get to 2, 3 o'clock, and you come up on these people that are running 50 mile an hour in an 80 or 70 mile an hour zone, and those are the ones that kind of they speed up and act stupid and all that. When I've talked about that before, because I don't think they know what's going on around them at that point. Because I know when I was in the Navy, I've done that. I don't like to admit it, but I've driven from Indiana to San Diego all in one stretch, and you get to the point where you think you're seeing kangaroos running across the road and everything else, and you don't know what's going on. You're not alert, and it's just not a good situation. I mean, I'm out here, I get my breaks, I get my sleep, and I get back on the road. I start pretty much the same time. I start around 10 p.m. wherever the locality I'm at, depending on my schedule for the next day. If I don't have to be somewhere, then I'll sleep in a little bit later, but normally I try to start at about 10 p.m. local time, and then I get on there, do my thing, and I get off, I'm off the road by 8 or 9 o'clock, usually at the latest, is the schedule I run. So those people kind of, they frustrate me, because I don't know, I know if you're out here, if you're in Wyoming, and you got Michigan plates, and you're out here at 2:30 in the morning, I know you're not getting hotels. You've probably driven straight through, and that's just there's no need for that. So I mean, it bothers me, and I don't like seeing them on the road. I talked a little bit as far as cons. I talked about the schedule swap a little bit. Like when you're coming out of the house, you obviously want to be on days. Then when you're coming out nights. And kind of the ways I deal with that is I kind of start, because I usually take, a couple of days off. So like my last couple of days, I'll stay up the night before, the day before I'm going out, I'll stay up a little bit later. I might stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock. And then, and I'll wake myself up and a little bit earlier. And then the night before that next day, I'll go to sleep like at 5 or 6 o'clock, get me 4 or 5 hours. Then I'll leave out at 10 or 11 o'clock that night. And I'm usually pretty good to go. Then I can kind of go ahead and kickstart myself on that routine. The last con, and the thing is kind of your meal schedule, because typically, like your body, you don't eat at night. So if you're running at night, you don't get hungry really. Then you're going to bed. Early. I'll eat something when I come in. And I have acid reflux, GERD, whatever. So I don't like eating and going to bed. So it kind of makes it a problem for me, because I like to get a couple hours before after I eat, before I go to bed. I get a lot of comments too. I'm gonna throw this out there right now while I'm on this topic of acid reflux. I wear suspenders a lot, and the reason, it's not just for a fashion statement. A lot of the reason I do that is because if you have a restriction around your abdomen, I had a doctor tell me this, and it's helped out a lot. So I mean, other people that might have the same problem. When I wear a belt, I notice a tight waist. It makes it worse. I feel that in my throat and all that. And if I wear suspenders or overalls or something, and kind of loose fitting pants, I feel a lot better. So like I said, that's why I kind of wear what I do. It's not. It's just more comfortable for me and better for that condition, and that's why I do that. So I get some comments on that every once in a while, so I'll just put that in there with this. And like I said, that kind of goes in with the meal schedule a little bit too. That I don't like. It's not good. If you have that condition, you got to be careful if you're driving nights. If you come in and eat and you go straight to bed, you're gonna have that feeling in your throat when you wake up, that burning feeling, and all that, or hoarse throat. So. But that's pretty much it for the cons, in my opinion. I mean, people may have other ones, and I think probably for most people that fall on a sleep factor is a problem for a lot of people if you're not used to it. I mean, like I said, in my situation, I'm dialed in. I'm used to it. I'm good. I get 4 or 5 hours sleep here. Next day, when I got a break like today, I slept this morning. I got like 6 hours sleep this morning when I got here at 4 o'clock. Go out and eat and screw around, do these videos. Then I'll get a few hours of sleep before I leave out of here tonight, and run down into town there just to where I'm picking up, and I'm going to park there and do my pickup in the morning, and get a couple more hours out of there. But so I'll go ahead and get into the pros, which I think outweigh the cons in my opinion. One thing, less traffic. Obviously, most of the traffic you see at night is truck traffic, and there's not as much of it. And usually more of the truck traffic is a problem for me, because like out here, especially in Wyoming, it's 75, 80 mile an hour speed limit. There's no truck speed limit. I can run that legally. And I like to save my time on my 70 hour, my clocks and all that, and be more efficient. So I don't like getting caught. And especially in the summertime, there's a lot of construction. They're not really construction zones. I don't know how, if you've been through Nebraska and Wyoming on I-80, especially, they do construction a little bit different than we do back east. They'll shut down the whole one side of the highway for 10, 15 miles, and they'll do 2-lane traffic on the other side. They'll put a lane of cones down the middle, and the speed limit's 65, and there's no reason not to go 65. I mean, I understand some people's trucks are governed at 63, whatever, but I'll come up on some people, even at night, at trucks, and every once in a while a four-wheeler, and they're running 45 mile an hour down through here, and I'm like, it's if you've been through Texas, Wyoming, the state routes, U.S. routes in Texas, the farm to market roads and all that, there's 75 mile an hour out there. There's 70 mile an hour here in Wyoming on the back roads, which I came down through last night. And I can't understand. There's no danger. There's no construction. Even if there were workers there, they're 100 feet on the other side of the highway. And during the day, it's that much more worse. So at night, occasionally I get behind somebody that's doing that, and it frustrates the heck out of me, because I feel like somebody's stealing my time for basically no reason, because it's just there's no need for it, in my opinion. So the less traffic, especially through the cities. If you're trying to I go through Chicago and those areas, St. Louis. I get through those at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I plan my schedule around that. Even if I have to use a split break or something to start a little bit earlier, whatever I have to do to where I get through those places and there's no traffic and less hassles. I see a lot less accidents. I don't like to call them accidents, they're wrecks, because obviously an accident implies that somebody's not at fault, when somebody's always at fault. Somebody did something at 98% of the time. So that's kind of the traffic. Then there's a lot, you can make a lot better time, a lot less traffic, a lot less holdups and all that. Second point, better parking, and that's why I showed you guys outside here. When I pull into a place, you got to be careful. Like if you pull into a place 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes these places can still be full, which perplexes me, because I don't know why you would. I like to get started as early as I can. Even when I was a company driver at Snyder, I started like at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and that way I'm parking a lot earlier. So I mean, even if you don't like driving all night, if you can shift your schedule where you're starting at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, that puts you off the road like at 1 or 2 o'clock, and it makes it that much easier to park. Because it's actually getting later. It's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon here, and it's still this way. But they'll kind of pontoon around up front up there. But here, once we get 6, 7 o'clock, this place will be a straight up circus. And so I mean, if you have a problem with parking and that worries you, kind of shifting your schedule a little bit to the left, I guess, starting a little bit earlier or driving nights can alleviate that. Because if I'm stuck, like I like paid parking, a lot of people complain about it, but if I'm going to be driving a schedule to where I know I'm going to be coming in and parking somewhere that I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock. I typically reserve a spot, and a lot of times I don't need it, but I just like that insurance policy because I like to be able to run out, get the miles I want, and be comfortable coming into a place, not having to worry about parking like an idiot somewhere in a fire lane, by the scales, by the fuel pumps, blocking people in, and I can go on and on and on. I don't park on ramp, even though it's Landstar's policy. I don't park on ramps, even if it wasn't Landstar's policy. I plan my schedule accordingly. I get a safe place to park where, and I like to be able to have the pick of the litter here, to where I don't have to worry about getting backed in by hit by somebody and all that. So it's a boon to me to be able to come in these places and be able to park wherever I want, not have to worry about it. More miles, that kind of goes in when I was talking about the less traffic, better parking. You can run your days out and not have to worry about parking. So you can run that clock. I mean, there's been times I've ran my clock down to 3 minutes on drive time and, pulled right into a parking spot. Don't have to worry about it. Where if you were trying to come into a place 7, 8 o'clock at night, you might be screwed if you only had 5 minutes on your clock, and there's no place to park. So that's, you can really be more efficient with your miles on that. Fourth point here is less wasted time waiting. So I get my, I typically get my fuel. I try to blend it in with my pre-trips or post-trips, so I can be a little bit more efficient on that 70-hour time. Because I'll show on first line, I'll show fueling, then on my second line, I show PTI, and I show, whatever it takes, and I can, because I can put the nozzles in. I can walk around and do a post-trip on the truck or a pre-trip. Check my tires and all that, and lights, and so because it takes a lot of fuel. But so I'm either doing that at 10 o'clock at night, or sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning. There's usually not lines at the fuel pumps, or sometimes depending on what the fuel prices are and where I'm at, I'll stop in to a place at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. There's nobody in the fuel aisles, and I can get my fuel, pull up to the lane. I'm not bothering anybody, and I can do my 30-minute break. I will never sit at the pump and do a 30-minute break, which I've seen people on YouTube do and actually videotape it. I've seen one person, I'm not going to say who it is or who they work for or who they are, but actually sit at a Love's at a fuel pump and videotape themselves going in and taking a shower. I'm not talking at the line, pulled up to the line, actually sitting at the fuel pump, and goes in and takes a shower. So that's really respectful of your fellow drivers out there. So that type of stuff frustrates me. So if I'm going to do a 30-minute break at a fuel, I'm not obviously not going to do it at a fuel pump, but I don't want to bother anybody. So if there's people coming in and out, I'll go find a parking space or pull off. But I'm typically at those times when I try to blend that 30-minute with the fueling, there's nobody there, and I don't have to have that pressure of holding somebody up, because I don't want my time's valuable. And I respect the fact that other people's time is valuable, and I don't want to hold anybody up or do anything that I wouldn't want done to me. So that's that. Cooler temps, and this is something that people don't think about. At night, in some places in this country, especially like get down to the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico, California, you might see a 50-degree temperature difference between night and day. And that's, ambient temperature. That's the air coming through your radiator cooling your truck down. I know my truck, like if I'm driving when it's, above 80 degrees, that fan's kicking in and out constantly. And that's loss of horsepower, that's loss of fuel economy. And it's just hard on the truck, and it breaks down the oil and all that much faster. So if I can run when it's 40 degrees cooler, at night, it's just, you get better fuel economy, it's easier on the engine and all that. So it's just, it's really a lot better and easier on your truck when that fan, like I said, at nighttime, like I came across Wyoming here last night, it was down 45-50 degrees, and this truck, it runs great. Fan never kicks in, even coming up grades and stuff like that. Like I said, when that fan's kicking in and out, which it does when I get up over 80 degrees, that thing, it even when I'm not on grades, it's kicking in and out to try to cool the truck down. So it's just a lot harder on everything. Every time that clutch kicks in for the fan, the belts, and like I said, the horsepower and the fuel economy loss. So if I can run at a cooler time, it's just that much more better. The other thing is stress, like with loads and schedules. And I find at the time I'm doing deliveries and pickups and all that, usually after I do a pickup, I'm going right to a truck stop, or after I do a delivery, I'm going right to a truck. I'm parking for the day. It's not, I don't do a whole lot of afternoon pickups or deliveries. Most of my stuff's in the morning, and I kind of plan it that way. I'll do afternoon pickups. So it's like, a lot of guys, they're going in, they're worried about their time, they're watching their clocks, they're trying to get out and get back on the road. For me, like after I do a pickup or delivery, I'm done for the day. So even if they run, I've never had it happen where somebody's rammed me out of my 14. But even if it does, I'm going to the truck stop anyway. I'm not going anywhere. So even if I have to, which I legally can go on personal conveyance to go to a legal, safe haven, legal place to park, it's never stressful to me. I don't have to worry about it, because like I said, I'm doing a pickup delivery and I'm going and parking for the day in the morning. That's the way with Landstar. A lot of your pickup and delivery appointments are negotiable. So it's not, a lot of the stuff isn't set in stone. A lot of them are, but most of the stuff I do isn't. I usually get a choice in kind of my appointment times, and I always pick my morning appointments. If I do an afternoon pickup, I had to kind of look at what my delivery times and all that are, and kind of work that in. But even when I do an afternoon pickup or delivery, I'm usually going to go straight to a truck stop and I'll kind of plan my day for that. And sometimes I'll do a split break where I can get it, where if I was at a shipper, or for 2 hours, I can drive to the nearest. I mean, a lot of times some of our customers will let us stay there, so you can just go ahead and do a 10-hour, and you can start from the time that you got there. But other times, like if I've got 2 hours there, if I'm close to 2 hours, I'll get that 2 hours in. Even if I'm at an hour and a half, I'll kind of just hang around until I get my 2 hours off duty, and then I'll go to the closest truck stop or rest area, wherever. I mean, maybe it'll only be 10, 20, 30 minutes away, and then I can do that 8 hours, and then I've got my clock, back where I can start back on my regular time. So I mean, there's a lot of tools you can use to kind of to wrap that schedule around, and I like it better than running a day schedule, because I don't have that pressure doing a morning pickup. Then I'm worried about my time, my drive time, my 14. Then you got to drive till 10 o'clock at night and park in a fire lane or fuel wherever, like a moron. No offense, but I think I have real high anxiety with that type of stuff. Like if I had to park somewhere, where I shouldn't be, I don't think I'd be able to sleep at night, because I'd be worried about somebody hitting me, somebody coming knocking on my door, security coming and making me leave. And I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to bother anybody. I just want to do my thing. I don't want anybody to bother me. I just want to do what I got to do out here, be professional, and go on with life. And that's why I like the schedule, because it's a lot less stressful for me. I don't have to deal with many people. Like I said, my pickups and deliveries go pretty smooth. A lot of my stuff's dropping hooks, and a lot of times, most dropping hooks, they're a 24-hour, 7-day a week, entry time, where you can go in those. A lot of those, like I do, like I got a Walmart delivery here. That load I got from Kent, Washington, going over to Loveland, Colorado at Walmart. It's a 24-hour window. I mean, I'll probably roll in there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's not going to be that line waiting to get into this place where you'd have, if you come in there at 8 o'clock, you're probably going to be waiting in line behind 10 trucks, and you waste all that time. So that's another positive right there, is in a pro, to where, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to cruise right in and cruise right out with no problems with that schedule. So I've had a lot of questions on that, and I just wanted to put that out. And if anybody's got any comments, I'll be happy to get to those. And or if you have any further personal stuff, like I said, get to us on the About page, and I'll get back with you when I can. But again, I got to all the comments today, and like I said, sorry for that backup. It just got kind of hairy there at home, and I kind of switching back over and getting back on the road. A little hectic, but I'll stay up. I'm gonna be out probably for the next 2 weeks, probably, with that load that I just booked out of Wyoming, going down to Arizona. So I'll be out a little bit longer than what I anticipated, but I think it'll turn in our favor and be pretty good revenue for 2.5 weeks or so. But again, we appreciate all the support out there, the comments, and again, I can't apologize enough. I got behind on all that stuff, and on the comments. If you got any questions, comments, put them in the comments, or contact us on the About page. Give us a thumbs up for liking the video, and subscribe, and we'll keep doing what we do. So we appreciate the views and the support. So we'll see y'all next time.